Join me as I embark on the journey of learning to make better decisions, just like a pro, by using the strategies from Annie Duke's Thinking in Bets. This book has completely reshaped the way I think about choices in my daily life. Today, I'm going to share how these strategies help us avoid the common decision-making pitfalls, how we can embrace uncertainty and improve our outcomes, and ultimately how Thinking in Bets has helped me approach life's challenges with a clearer, more strategic mindset. Understanding the decision-making pitfalls, we've all been there, stuck in the middle of making a tough decision, wondering if we're making the right choice. I used to rely heavily on my instincts, just going with my gut and hoping for the best. But I soon realized that instincts aren't always as reliable as we think. Our brains are prone to cognitive biases, errors, and shortcuts that often lead us astray. The Thinking in Bets framework makes us more aware of these mental traps, and it provides a structured way to navigate decisions rationally. One of the biggest traps is acting on instinct without carefully considering all the possibilities. It's easy to assume that our gut feeling is infallible, but more often than not, it's influenced by biases that distort our judgment. On top of that, we tend to overthink decisions to the point of paralysis, when we're so overwhelmed by the details that we can't make a decision at all. Sound familiar? Another classic pitfall in decision-making is overconfidence. Many of us have been guilty of making decisions with the certainty that we've considered everything, only to realize later that we missed something important. We fail to fully explore the potential outcomes, especially the negative ones. This overconfidence can blind us to alternative possibilities and skew our perception of how likely success really is. Finally, we often fall into the trap of judging decisions based on the outcome alone rather than the quality of the decision-making process. This is what Duke refers to as resulting. We assume that if the outcome was good, it must have been because we made a good decision, and if the outcome was bad, we must have made a bad decision. But life is unpredictable, and sometimes good decisions lead to poor outcomes due to factors outside our control, like luck or chance. These are the kinds of decision-making flaws that Annie Duke addresses in Thinking in Bets. She explains that life is full of uncertainty, much like poker, and we need to develop a new way of thinking, one that allows us to make better decisions even when we don't have all the information. What it means to think in bets. So, how can we improve our decision-making? The key insight from Annie Duke's book is to start thinking in bets. This mindset is all about treating every decision as if it's a bet on the future. Instead of focusing on the result, you focus on the process, on making the best possible decision based on the information you have at the time. This shift allows you to evaluate the quality of your decisions independently of the outcome. And that's what sets professional decision-makers apart from the rest of us. But what does it mean to think in bets? First, it means recognizing that every decision has an uncertain outcome. No matter how confident you are, you never know for sure what's going to happen. When you think in bets, you're forced to acknowledge that your beliefs and assumptions are just that, guesses about the future. This makes you more careful and thoughtful about the decisions you make because you're constantly considering the different possible outcomes. Thinking in bets also means understanding probabilities. In poker, every decision is made based on the odds of winning, the size of the potential pot, and the strength of your hand. Similarly, in life, we need to think about the likelihood of different outcomes when making decisions. What are the chances that this decision will lead to success? What are the risks? What's the worst-case scenario? And can I live with that? Another important aspect of thinking in bets is the willingness to update your beliefs as you get new information. In poker, good players are always reevaluating their position based on the cards they see, the actions of their opponents, and any other clues they can gather. In life, we need to do the same. When new evidence comes to light, we need to be willing to change our minds and adjust our decisions accordingly. How cognitive biases impact decision-making. One of the most interesting parts of Thinking in Bets is how Duke explains the role of cognitive biases in decision-making. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts that our brains use to process information quickly. While these shortcuts can be useful in some situations, they often lead to poor decisions because they distort our perception of reality. One common bias is confirmation bias, which is the tendency to seek out information that supports our existing beliefs while ignoring information that contradicts them. For example, if you believe that a certain sports team is the best, you might focus only on their wins and overlook their losses. This bias prevents us from seeing the whole picture and makes it harder to make rational decisions. Another bias is hindsight bias, which happens when we look back on a decision and assume that the outcome was inevitable. For example, if a company launches a successful product, we might assume that the success was obvious from the start, even if there were risks involved. Hindsight bias can make us overconfident in our future decisions because we forget how uncertain things were at the time. Outcome bias is another issue that Thinking in Bets tackles. This is the tendency to judge the quality of a decision based on its outcome, rather than the process that led to the decision. For example, if you make a risky investment and it pays off, you might think you made a smart decision, even if it was mostly luck. On the other hand, if the investment fails, you might beat yourself up for making a poor decision, even if the odds were in your favor. Duke emphasizes that a good decision is one that is well thought out and based on sound reasoning, regardless of the outcome. Understanding these biases is key to Thinking in Bets because it helps us become more aware of the ways our brains can trick us into making irrational decisions. By recognizing these biases, we can take steps to counteract them and make more thoughtful, deliberate choices. Embracing uncertainty and probability, a central theme in Thinking in Bets, is that uncertainty is a natural part of life, and we need to learn to live with it. In poker, no matter how skilled you are, there's always an element of chance. You can make the best possible decision, but you still might lose because of factors beyond your control. In life, the same is true. We can't predict the future with certainty, but we can make educated guesses based on the information we have. This is where probability comes into play. Probability is the language of uncertainty. It's how we quantify the likelihood of different outcomes. When you think in bets, you're constantly evaluating the probability of success for different options. You're not just asking, is this a good decision? You're asking, what are the odds that this decision will lead to a good outcome? Let's say you're deciding whether to apply for a job. You might think, I have a 50% chance of getting the job, but that's just a rough guess. Thinking in Bets pushes you to dig deeper. What do you know about the competition? How well do your skills match the job requirements? What is the company's track record with hiring? By considering these factors, you can refine your estimate of the probability and make a more informed decision. In poker, skilled players understand that even when the odds are in their favor, they won't win every hand. Similarly, in life, we need to accept that even when we make the best possible decision, things might not go our way. But over time, if we consistently make decisions with high probabilities of success, we'll come out ahead. Managing risk, a lesson from Poker, is all about managing risk. Every time a player makes a bet, they're weighing the potential rewards against the risks. The same principle applies to decision-making in everyday life. We need to think carefully about the risks we're taking and whether the potential rewards are worth it. One of the key strategies that poker players use to manage risk is expected value. Expected value is a way of calculating the average outcome of a decision over time. For example, if you're deciding whether to call a bet in poker, you calculate the expected value by weighing the size of the pot against the likelihood of winning. If the expected value is positive, meaning that the potential rewards outweigh the risks, it's a good decision to call. If the expected value is negative, meaning that the risks outweigh the potential rewards, it's better to fold. In life, we can use expected value to make better decisions as well. Let's say you're deciding whether to invest in a new business. You don't know for sure whether the business will succeed, but you can estimate the probability of success based on factors like market trends, the experience of the business owners, and the competition. You can also estimate the potential rewards if the business does succeed. By comparing the potential rewards to the risks, you can calculate the expected value of the investment and decide whether it's worth pursuing. Duke emphasizes that making decisions with a positive expected value doesn't guarantee success in the short term. Just like in poker, there will be times when you make a good decision but still lose due to bad luck. However, if you consistently make decisions with a positive expected value, you'll come out ahead in the long run. That's one of the most important lessons from Thinking in Bets. It's not about winning every time, it's about making decisions that, over time, will lead to success. By focusing on the long-term expected value, you can avoid getting too caught up in short-term outcomes and focus on making the best possible decisions with the information you have. Learning to manage risk in daily life, managing risk in life, is a bit different from managing risk in poker, but the principles are the same. In poker, you calculate the risk of losing based on probabilities, your cards, and what you know about your opponents. In real life, risk comes in many different forms, whether it's financial risk, emotional risk, or the risk of failure in a big project. For example, Let's say you're considering taking on a new challenge, like starting your own business or moving to a new city for a job opportunity. Both of these decisions involve risk, but thinking in bets helps you weigh the pros and cons more carefully. What are the chances that the business will succeed? What is the downside if it doesn't? How much money are you willing to invest? And what will you do if things don't go as planned? Duke teaches us that it's important to understand the downside and be comfortable with it before making a decision. Just like poker players who fold when the risks are too high, in life, we need to be willing to say no to opportunities that don't have enough upside or that carry too much risk. On the other hand, when the upside outweighs the risks, it's time to make a bold move and go all in. But it's not just about managing big risks. Thinking in bets can also help with everyday decisions. Imagine you're deciding whether to study for an extra hour before a big exam or spend that time hanging out with friends. By thinking in bets, you can evaluate the risks and rewards of each option. Studying for an extra hour increases your chances of doing well on the exam, while spending time with friends gives you immediate enjoyment but doesn't help your long-term goals. What's the expected value of each choice, and which one will benefit you more in the long run? Managing risk isn't about avoiding it altogether. It's about understanding the risks you're taking and making sure they're worth it. Duke's approach to decision-making helps us take calculated risks that are more likely to lead to success, both in poker and in life. The importance of accountability and feedback. One of the most powerful ideas in thinking in bets is the importance of accountability. Duke explains that if we want to improve our decision-making, we need to be honest with ourselves about the quality of our decisions. This means holding ourselves accountable for the choices we make and seeking feedback from others to help us identify our blind spots. In poker, players often discuss their hands with each other after a game. These conversations, known as hand histories, allow players to analyze their decisions and learn from their mistakes. Even professional players who win big pots seek feedback from other pros to make sure they're making the best possible decisions, not just relying on luck. Duke encourages us to do the same in life. After making an important decision, take some time to reflect on the process. Ask yourself, did I make the best decision I could with the information I had? Don't just focus on the outcome. Even if things turn out well, you might have made some mistakes along the way. By reviewing your decisions and seeking feedback from trusted friends, colleagues, or mentors, you can learn valuable lessons and improve your decision-making over time. One of the best ways to hold yourself accountable is by forming what Duke calls a decision pod. A decision pod is a small group of people who are committed to helping each other make better decisions. Each member of the group provides feedback on the other's decisions, offering honest and constructive criticism. The goal is to improve the quality of your decision-making by exposing yourself to different perspectives and having people who will challenge your thinking. For example, let's say you're trying to decide whether to accept a job offer. You might ask your decision pod for their input. They can help you weigh the pros and cons of the job, point out factors you might not have considered, and give you an honest assessment of whether you're being too optimistic or too cautious. The key is to surround yourself with people who are willing to give you tough, honest feedback, not just tell you what you want to hear. Feedback is essential for learning and growth, but it's only helpful if we're willing to listen and act on it. Duke emphasizes that feedback can be uncomfortable, especially when it challenges our beliefs or decisions. But by staying open to feedback and using it to improve our decision-making process, we can avoid the pitfalls of overconfidence and make more thoughtful choices. Separating luck from skill. One of the most difficult but crucial lessons from thinking in bets is learning how to separate luck from skill. In poker, luck plays a huge role in determining the outcome of any given hand. Even the best players can lose if they get unlucky with the cards. However, over time, it's their skill that determines their long-term success. The same is true in life. In the short term, luck can have a big impact on our outcomes. You might get a lucky break and land a job because you happen to meet the right person at the right time, or you might lose out on an opportunity because of bad timing. But over the long term, it's your decision-making skills that will determine your overall success. Duke explains that many people make the mistake of attributing too much of their success or failure to their own skill, when in reality, luck played a significant role. This is known as self-serving bias, the tendency to take credit for successes and blame external factors for failures. Self-serving bias can prevent us from learning from our mistakes because it keeps us from seeing the role that luck plays in our outcomes. For example, let's say you ace a test. You might attribute your success entirely to your hard work and intelligence, ignoring the fact that the test happened to include questions on topics you were already comfortable with. On the flip side, if you fail a test, you might blame the teacher for making the questions too hard, instead of considering how you could have prepared better. By thinking in bets, we become more aware of the role that luck plays in our decisions. This doesn't mean downplaying our achievements or blaming everything on luck. It means being honest with ourselves about how much control we really had over the outcome. When we recognize the influence of luck, we can focus on what we can control, improving the quality of our decisions and learning from both our successes and failures. Duke also emphasizes that separating luck from skill helps us stay grounded and avoid getting overconfident after a success. It's easy to let a streak of good luck make us feel invincible. But if we assume that every success is due to our skill, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment when luck inevitably turns against us. By staying humble and recognizing the role of luck, we can keep improving our decision-making process and stay focused on the long-term game. Building a decision-making framework, one of the best takeaways from thinking in bets is that decision-making isn't about being perfect. It's about developing a framework that helps you consistently make better choices over time. Duke provides several key strategies for building this decision-making framework. First, she encourages us to think probabilistically. Every decision involves uncertainty, and by thinking about the probabilities of different outcomes, we can make more informed choices. This doesn't mean we need to calculate exact percentages for every decision, but it does mean being realistic about the likelihood of success and failure. For example, if you're deciding whether to take on a big project at work, think about the odds of completing it successfully. What are the risks and what are the rewards? What can you do to improve your chances of success? Second, Duke emphasizes the importance of updating your beliefs as you get new information. Life is constantly changing, and we need to be willing to adjust our plans and decisions based on the latest data. This means staying flexible and open to new ideas, even if it means admitting that you were wrong. Good decision makers are always learning and adapting. They don't cling to outdated beliefs just because they're comfortable. Third, Duke reminds us to focus on the process, not the outcome. This is one of the most challenging aspects of thinking in bets, because it requires us to let go of our attachment to immediate results. Instead of judging a decision based on whether it worked out, we need to ask ourselves, was this a good decision given what I knew at the time? Over time, focusing on the process will lead to better outcomes because you'll be consistently making thoughtful, well-reasoned decisions. Finally, Duke encourages us to embrace uncertainty. Life is full of unknowns, and there's no way to predict the future with complete accuracy. Instead of fearing uncertainty, we should accept it as a natural part of the decision-making process. By thinking in bets, we can manage uncertainty more effectively and make decisions that balance risk and reward. Final thoughts. How Thinking in Bets has transformed my approach to decision-making. Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke has completely changed the way I approach decision-making. Before reading this book, I often relied on instinct, hoping for the best without fully considering all the possibilities. I'd get frustrated when things didn't go my way, and I'd blame myself for bad outcomes even when I knew I had made the best decision I could at the time. Now, with the strategies from Thinking in Bets, I approach every decision as a calculated risk, knowing that I can't control the outcome, but can control the process. By thinking of decisions as bets, I've become more thoughtful, more aware of my biases, and more willing to accept uncertainty. I've stopped judging my choices solely by how things turn out, and instead, I focus on whether I'm making smart, well-reasoned decisions based on the information I have at the time. One of the most transformative ideas from the book has been the concept of focusing on the process rather than the outcome. It's easy to get caught up in whether a decision leads to success or failure. But as Duke explains, outcomes are often influenced by luck or other factors beyond our control. Now, when things don't go my way, I don't beat myself up. I reflect on whether I followed a sound decision-making process, and if I did, I take pride in that regardless of the result. For example, let's say I decide to invest in a new skill like learning to code. If I don't master it as quickly as I hoped, it's easy to feel discouraged and think I made a bad decision. But when I think in bets, I can remind myself that the decision to learn coding was a good one based on my long-term goals, even if the short-term outcome isn't what I expected. The process of learning, struggling, and improving is more important than any one milestone along the way. Thinking in bets has also helped me become more comfortable with uncertainty. In the past, I often hesitated to make decisions because I didn't know exactly how things would turn out. But now, I understand that uncertainty is a natural part of life. By thinking probabilistically and weighing the risks and rewards of different options, I've become more confident in making decisions even when I don't have all the answers. I know that as long as I'm making informed choices and constantly updating my beliefs with new information, I'm on the right path. This mindset has been particularly helpful in professional settings. When working on a big project or collaborating with others, it's easy to feel anxious about whether everything will go perfectly. But by thinking in bets, I've learned to focus on what I can control, doing thorough research, communicating effectively, and staying adaptable as things evolve. If unexpected challenges arise, I'm less likely to panic because I've already considered the risks and prepared for different scenarios. Another major shift for me has been learning to embrace feedback. In the past, I sometimes struggled with taking criticism, especially if I thought I had made the right choice. But thinking in bets taught me that feedback is a crucial part of improving decision-making. Now, I actively seek out feedback from colleagues, friends, and mentors, even when it's uncomfortable. I understand that their perspectives can help me see things I might have missed, and that feedback is a valuable tool for refining my decision-making process. For example, after completing a project, I no longer shy away from asking, "What could I have done better?" Even if the project was a success, there's always room for improvement. I'm more interested in honing my decision-making skills than in resting on my laurels. This approach has helped me grow both personally and professionally, as I'm constantly learning from my experiences and striving to get better. The concept of dissociating skill from luck has also been a game changer. Before reading Thinking in Bets, I often attributed success to my skills and failures to bad luck. But Duke's insights have helped me recognize that luck plays a role in both good and bad outcomes. This realization has made me more humble when things go well and more forgiving of myself when they don't. I now approach success with the understanding that luck likely played a part, and I look for ways to continue improving my skills. For instance, if I win an award at work, I no longer assume that it was purely because of my efforts. I recognize that timing, opportunity, and other factors likely contributed to my success. This mindset keeps me grounded and prevents me from becoming overconfident. Similarly, when I experience setbacks, I'm better able to accept that some things were simply beyond my control. This allows me to bounce back more quickly and focus on what I can do differently next time. One of the most rewarding changes in my life has been my improved ability to manage risk. Before adopting the Thinking in Bets mindset, I often played it safe, avoiding risks because I was afraid of failure. But now, I see risk differently. I understand that some level of risk is necessary for growth, and by managing risk intelligently, I can make bold decisions without being reckless. For example, I used to avoid taking on leadership roles because I feared making mistakes. But now, I weigh the risks and rewards of each opportunity. I know that even if I make mistakes, the long-term benefits of gaining leadership experience outweigh the short-term risks. By thinking about the expected value of my decisions, I'm able to take calculated risks that push me out of my comfort zone and lead to personal growth. In my personal life, I've also started applying these strategies. Whether it's deciding how to spend my time or making choices about my relationships, I'm more thoughtful and intentional about the decisions I make. I no longer rely on gut feelings or default to what's easiest. Instead, I evaluate the risks, consider the probabilities, and think about the long-term impact of my choices. For instance, if I'm deciding whether to spend time on a new hobby, I think about the potential benefits of learning a new skill versus the time commitment required. I weigh the enjoyment I'll get from the hobby against the other ways I could be spending my time, and I make a decision based on what will bring the most value to my life in the long run. Decision journaling has become a habit that I picked up from Thinking in Bets, and it has helped me track and improve my decision-making process over time. After making a major decision, I write down why I made it, what information I had, and what I expect the outcome to be. Later, I review the outcome and reflect on whether my decision was based on good reasoning, or if I let biases or emotions influence me. This practice has been invaluable for helping me spot patterns in my thinking and identify areas where I can improve. It's easy to forget the reasons behind a decision when you're caught up in the moment, but journaling forces me to stay accountable and learn from each experience. Thinking in Bets has given me a framework for approaching decisions that has transformed my life. By treating decisions as bets, focusing on the process rather than the outcome, and constantly updating my beliefs, I've become a more thoughtful and confident decision maker. I'm no longer paralyzed by uncertainty or afraid of making mistakes. Instead, I approach each decision with clarity, knowing that as long as I make the best choice I can with the information I have, I'm moving in the right direction. And the best part is, this is a skill that anyone can learn. Whether you're making decisions in your career, relationships, or personal life, the strategies from Thinking in Bets can help you navigate uncertainty and make choices that lead to better outcomes. So I encourage you to start thinking in bets, challenge your assumptions, embrace uncertainty, and focus on improving your decision-making process. Thank you for joining me on this journey of exploring decision-making through the lens of Thinking in Bets. I hope you found these insights as valuable as I have, and I'd love to hear how you apply these strategies in your own life. Let's keep learning, growing, and making better decisions together.